Hello, everyone. My name is Dio Morales, your host of the Gold Squadron podcast, and we're coming to you live from Chicago, Illinois, and Michigan, somewhere in Michigan, and somewhere in Ohio, and another place in Chicago as well. And today, I'm joined by Marcel Summertime Manzano.
Yeah, I've been waiting for this one. It was like 90 degrees out today almost. So I did it. I stayed home. I got to look out the window.
Yeah, you're like, oh, that looks warm out there.
Yeah.
Will, quit trying to make oddball a thing, Hagewood.
I moved to Ohio, apparently.
Aw, dang it. I made that mistake again. There's no difference between these two states. I'm telling you, there's not a difference. All you Iowans are going to be mad at me. All right, that's fine.
If you're in Midwest and not Chicago, you're Ohio.
Correct. And Ryan Firelord Staniszewski.
I've thoroughly enjoyed watching through Avatar, since I didn't get the chance to when I was younger all the way through. And fun fact, Mark Hamill voices the Fire Lord.
Bam. Facts. Related Star Wars tie-in. Let's go. Alrighty. So a couple of announcements and things in the news for X-Wing here. There are only 35 tickets left for Space Jam Sydney. Now, compared to our other events, I will say it's taking longer to sell the tickets, but here's the thing. In a lot of the United States ones, in both the United States ones, in Europe, they were gone within a day. All right? So, if you think you have the bravery and you live, let's say, in the United States or in Europe, to stay up and fight the time zone, you get some opportunity to play against some awesome Australian players who are in the Space Jam Sydney. So if you want a ticket, this is the first time I actually get to say this on the podcast. Get your tickets now. They are available. Only 35 left. Next, I want to say thank you to everybody who joined me for the first ever Gold Squadron Buildcast, where we worked on, actually I have it right next to me, worked on this Collector's Series A-Wing. That's about as far we got on the first stream. It was a great experience using the formula basically for the paint cast. Just straight up just ripping it off Luke. It's a great idea, just using Legos instead of painting. Which, speaking, segue of the paint cast, by the way, if you guys haven't tuned into the paint cast yet, you are missing out. Luke is doing some absolutely amazing things. So one of just the cool projects that he's working on right now, every ship that he paints and mods, he is creating it in Tabletop Simulator and showing you how to do that. So if you want to learn how to repaint your ships in Tabletop Simulator, watch the Paintcast. He's doing all kinds of really cool things, and starting with Space Jam Sydney, so not Space Jam LA, because won't be quite ready to that, but starting with Space Jam Sydney, we're going to be giving away the first ship that has a physical model, and then also giving away an exclusive model that of the copy of it to somebody as well. Now, you may be wondering, well, can I just like play against that person and copy it? No, you can't, because we got some fancy things that make it so that can't happen. So only one person, and myself, will have access to the to those specially painted ships. So super excited about that. Yeah, that's going to be great. Which, like we mentioned, this upcoming weekend is Space Jam LA. If I'm not mistaken, make sure I'm remembering this right. I think my co-host for that whole thing is Ryan. Ryan, right? Yep. Me and Staniszewski the whole time, and then Space Jam LA is the following weekend, which, by the way, if you are in the United States, for me in Chicago, the event starts at 7 p.m. on Friday. So, time zone magic. Keep that in mind. If you want to see the full schedule with the time zone breakdown, go to goldsquadronpodcast.com. Check out the Space Jam section. All right. We're going to jump into... We're going to go ahead and start with our first topic here. This is one that came up a lot in the Discord, and if you paid attention to Space Jam Rome, Timo won that. He was a champion. He ran a list that was Boba Fett and Dengar. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab the list, and my lovely assistant Marcel Manzano, I would like to hear you read me. Tell me a story about this list as I completely stall to get it and just continue saying words until I can get it on my screen.
You're on your A game today, Dion.
I forgot to pull up the list.
Yeah, so it's Boba and Dengar. It's a different version. There was 2 lists that made top 4 over there. I forgot the name of the other person, but it was also a different Boba Dengar list. And Timo, who if he's for starters, he's a good player.
He's an amazing player.
Yeah, amazing player. He won, I think, the UK System Open earlier this year.
He sure did.
Or was it the UK Nationals? One of the two. With Boba and Koshka. He was one of the first ones to win a major tournament with Boba Koshka. So it just shows that he has some experience flying Boba at high level and winning major tournament with it. And he has Fearless, Jamming Beam because it's free, Darth Maul, Proton Bombs, Contraband Cybernetics, Hull Upgrade, and Slave 1 on Boba Fett. Comes in at a fat 113. And Dengar has Marksmanship, Proton Torpedoes, Auto Blaster, which Marksmanship and Auto Blasters works extremely well. L337, for those who don't know what L337 is, it's the crew that allows you to force your opponent to re-roll all of their dice. And that's good to get Dengar out of some trouble if somebody rolls some naturals, which can't then be re-rolled with a target lock because they've already been re-rolled once. And then it also opens up his Banks maneuvers to be blue. And then Han Solo, thank you, and Contraband Cybernetic. Han Solo again at the start of activation. Before you activate, you may take a stress to get a focus token. Is it a focus action or a focus token on Han Solo?
Focus action.
Focus action.
But if you've done the Contraband Cybernetics on a turn, you can use
you can also
Gunner.
use Han and double stress yourself. Yeah. So it's and Proton Torpedoes, and it hits really hard. Does not use Punishing One. Specifically, does not use Punishing One, so you can get the gunner in, because once you use Punishing One, I believe you lose the gunner slot.
Yep.
You lose the crew slot.
The crew slot. Okay, you would lose L3. All right. Well, again, at this point, if he's facing the front arc, he's either using the torpedoes or the auto blasters anyway. But
really, that L3, once you get to flip it, really opens up that dial. I think that's probably the biggest part with that L3. You get that one chance for the defensive rerolls, and then you open up that dial.
Yeah, I mean, you can't beat turning right. I mean, it lets him turn right and clear stress by going right.
Awesome. So, Go ahead, Will.
I was going to say that it also, without the title, and using front arc weapons like the cannon and torps, lets you put your primary weapon to the side, so you actually get a lot more arc coverage.
Oh, that's a great point, because Punishing One says that you only get that third dice if you're pointed out the front, correct? All right, so...
Yep, correct.
So what I wanted to cover here today is some strategies against, because a lot of times, I mean, and we've seen this is a cycle, is you see a list win a major event, which right now the Space Jams are big events that are really happening in our communities. Then you get a bunch of people who try the lists, and then you have a bunch of people on the other side who start to struggle or worried that this is the next meta monster, right? You got all the tools that Boba Fett has, right? The Slave 1 title, you got offensive, defensive rerolls. On Boba Fett's side, he's an Initiative 6 who can double modify these torpedoes and basically just be a sniper. Some people start getting some PTSD with 1.0 Dengar, thinking about proton torpedoes, and there's a lot of, the sky is falling. Oh my god, how do I beat this list? I can't beat it. So what I want to do, like we always do, take a couple steps back, let's reflect, and let's talk about some strategies that are good against this list, and also discuss this is basically an extension of what we talked about last week. We had discussed, like, is Timo's list, like, and the other person who had it, actually can go ahead and pull it up really quickly, the name.
It was Eno.
Eno, there you go. And Eno, who both did really, really well. Is it Boba Fett plus something that is carrying the day? I mean, I think my instinct goes there. But is Boba Fett and Dengar like the next evolution, the next best level? What do you guys think?
All right, I guess I'll start. Well, I think it's an evolution. I don't know if it's the next evolution. Dengar, he hits like a power truck, and he's dangerous. He's got a lot of tools. He's got a lot of survivability, and also people who aren't used to flying against Dengar, which is almost everyone now. 2.0,
Yeah, because you don't see too many jump masters out there.
Yeah, you don't see them around that often, and if you do, it's usually it's like Nam Lam or something like that, providing more of a support role. So, it catches people off guard. That contraband, being able to keep in target and opening up the dial to the right, fixes, and having 2 arcs with the cannon plus the rotating arc gives it a lot of. It fixes a lot of the things that used to make it unplayable before. However, Dengar it still has a lot of weaknesses. It still has a lot of flaws. It still has a lot of bad matchups, and really Boba is what carries that, and I think we've seen that all all of 2020 so far. This year we've seen that Boba plus Koshka, Boba plus Eamon, Boba plus Fen Rao, Boba plus something, whether it's something AC or something beefy, is enough to give you a chance to win any game. So again, Dengar, I think it's an upgrade from something like Koshka in most scenarios, because you're initiative 6 and you can put, and it packs a bigger punch. But it's definitely got flaws. For example, well, we'll get into matchups that are probably bad against it first. But as far as strategies goes, no, I guess the first question was, is it the new top dog? I don't think it's the new top dog. I think it's one of. I think Boba, it has been the top dog between Boba and Vader, and it doesn't change that.
All right, so we've identified and established that Boba Fett really is the thing that carries the list, but we can't deny that there has been a bit of an evolution, right? So we had Boba Fen was probably the first one, right? Boba Fen, and then we got Boba Koshka, and then you also had some people messing around with Iman Azamin in there as well. And now we have this Dengar. Now, I think the advantage, the obvious advantage that Dengar has over some of those other ones is the fact that he's initiative 6 and has this ability to also have this big punch and be a secondary big threat. Now, if we want to go ahead and play the game, let's say we continue to develop, is there something else in Scum that you could pair with Boba Fett that might be better than Dengar? And I know that, of course, we could talk about it situationally, but I think in most situations, Dengar's a pretty good partner. As you look at those evolutions from Fen to Koshka to now Dengar, is there something else that maybe might be coming around the bend? What do you think, Will? Or Ryan? I think maybe Ryan was about to say something.
Oh, go ahead, Ryan, if you got something. I was just scrolling through.
You got it. Go ahead.
I mean, we had seen. So back in the day, we used to see Forlam and Palam. We've also seen 2 Fearless Skulls as well. And what else did we see? We saw Guri a lot as well as a wingmate to Boba Fett. I would like to see, like, we were comparing Dengar to basically like a heavy hitter, right? A beat stick, I believe was the term. So I could see something like a pair of 2 ships that could put out a lot of damage as well. I'm not sure how the prices work out, but something like maybe like Cavill and Bosk, maybe like a Tirani, Kolda, and Bosk, to squeeze in there to try to get some real heavy hitting extra damage out there, and also to draw fire. And I think that's what it's what Dengar doesn't do, and I think that's what makes it perfect for Boba, is that like Fenrau, Guri, all the other ones I mentioned, they actually draw a lot of heat onto themselves because they're either a small ship or very fragile or whatever, what have you. But Dengar actually bounces that aggro to Boba, to where now you're like, oh, I guess I gotta go find Boba out on the field and try to chase him around. All the while, Dengar's just grinning ear to ear, getting essentially free shots. So I'm not sure if there's somebody who you wouldn't want to shoot at that has that kind of aggro passing that Dengar does.
There is, I mean, so Dengar is definitely that spot of like, okay, if I have to kill something other than Boba, Dengar feels pretty bad because he's got that second shot. And if you're making that second shot as dangerous potentially as possible, it makes it even worse to try and kill him. Another ship that was used pretty commonly in sort of like that Russian beat stick, but not in the realm of 2 attacks like Dengar can generate, but one that makes an attack really devastating and at the same time disrupts your play, is Ketsu. I don't know if there's something really there for that. It's not an I6, it is also an I5, so you don't have that I6 coverage, so to say. But you know, you have a large base taking up space, just putting its front arc in the way as much as possible. Is that the next evolution? I'm gonna guess no. Is there viability? Maybe. Just Ketsu for 80 points. If you can get Fearless, Contraband, 000, and Shadowcaster. She normally likes Maul, but Boba likes Maul more. So 000, Ketsu innately wants to be range 1. Granted, she's only really messing up a small bases day and sometimes a medium bases day with her ability plus Shadowcaster.
That's very true. So, you know, I just think one of the things, just kind of sum up there, is the question is whether the 2 ship, you know, I think the next option, you're right, might be Ketsu for people to start experimenting with. And then possibly after that is Boba Fett plus 2 coming back. And I know that we have seen some people experimented with it. Will did talk about the people flying 2 skulls with it. But I'm just curious to see kind of where things evolve. Are other named pilots going to be in there? What other abilities can start to synergize with Boba Fett and really make a push? So next kind of subtopic in this discussion is, what are some strategies against Boba Fett and friends, specifically right now, let's talk about Boba Fett Dengar, that we can really employ. Now, before we jump into that, let's talk about some of the strategies that Boba Fett and Dengar use against you. So, one of the most obvious tools, we'll talk about Boba Fett first. He has a Slave 1 title, does not actually have to commit to a certain lane. One of just very basic idea is Boba Fett basically leads the way, Dengar's in the back coming slowly, and when you would have that engagement with Boba Fett, assuming you're playing against somebody with maybe 2 to 4 ships, he can very often just end up going in the safest direction using Slave 1, still have a shot, and then Dengar's there to start pounding away with the torpedo. Just like the very basic strategy for Boba Dengar. Let's go ahead and start talking about some other things that we can do against this list. Marcel, you want to start?
Yeah, I think the most obvious one is not congregate in the same area. Even if you have a list that typically wants to fly in formation, is break out of formation and hit it from multiple angles. Kite, have it use your debris and use your your gas clouds or debris or rocks, for cover. So if you know that, for example, if you know that one of your ships is going to get shot with a torpedo, fully mounted torpedo, just there's very little you can do to stop it, especially if you're not initiative 6. There's very little that you can do against it. But what you can do is you can set yourself up to where you're going to put yourself with a token behind, ideally a gas cloud. But if you don't have a gas cloud, some other type of debris just to up your defense, your defensive dice. And at the same time, when Dengar and Boba are gonna come in and try to kill and essentially erase his ship, which they very, very well could, you want to punish them for it. So you want to make sure that you give them you punish them for it. That you set it up to where, okay, you're gonna take shots at one of my ships that I'm feeding you, but you're gonna start working on them from the side. Now, one of the things that sucks about playing against that list is that you don't really have any good choices because both ships take forever to kill. If you go after Boba, Dengar will just continuously pound you. If you go after Dengar and Boba, endgame Boba is almost, again, being able to change sides and things like that. I think Boba gets much more difficult to beat than Dengar endgame, but also, Boba's pretty tough to kill, even at the beginning of the game when you have a lot of ships. So, I think just coming in from multiple angles, and if you have to make a choice, I think the choice, if you have good shots, is trying to get rid of Boba Fett first, although he is more difficult to kill, because I think at the end game, after Dengar has got shot off both torpedoes, he becomes a lot less dangerous. He's only got an auto blaster and a rotating arc, and end game that's typically not that dangerous. You're not that afraid of it.
What do you think, Will?
Yeah, as it's hard to recommend going after Dengar first because of the double shot, and essentially you're leaving a weakened force to go after Boba Fett. But if you have some maneuverability and can kind of get on multiple sides of Dengar, maybe somebody blocking him and then two people coming in from the sides to stay out of that front arc, that would be the best case scenario, to try to just get in early and do some real damage to him. Unfortunately, though, that's going to activate his L3, and I said you're going to be reduced to fighting probably a full health Boba Fett versus a few of your weakened ships then. So it's not a great strategy. Essentially, like I said, the list is designed to have not a great strategy against it. It really depends on the list you're flying against it, whether you got maneuverability or just pure firepower. Sometimes some health. Like if you're like a real beefy 1 agility swarm, if you will, you might be able to just pull both those torp shots and just hope that whatever ship is locked can take them both, so everybody else in your list can unload on Dengar, even though everybody's in his front arc.
Cool. Now, Ryan, I'm going to have you start this next road. Let's take a turn here. Let's start talking about what are some lists, some builds, some pilots that have shown some success against this archetype, or maybe some things that maybe haven't been explored as much and could maybe be good, at least in this matchup.
So I want to start with the not explored because I think it's a card that has been used pretty sparingly. but for good reason, because there's still a lot of lists in the game that succeed with multiple ships, and this particular card doesn't do as well against it. But if we see a predominance of small ship count, Ace is trying to bid higher than Boba, or just more Boba plus stuff, meaning this Dengar, keep an eye out for mag pulse missiles. Dengar does not want to get shot by that at all whatsoever. His attacks become meaningless, and the less ships you're going up against, the more impactful mag pulse missiles going to be. Von Reg hasn't really found his place. That might be a solid place, just being that high initiative mag pulse carrier. If you distance yourself so that Dengar can't run in and get the lock before you can make your move, then you've neutered his ability to get a lock on you. So then you move in, take the lock on him. He doesn't have the proton torpedo at you anyway, so then he either can't shoot you back or it's not a well-modded shot. So there's an ability to use that to good effect. And maybe on not just a high initiative ship, could be a lower initiative ship. His revenge shot becomes much less scary if you shoot him with this and he takes 1 damage, which I think on average, as long as you have to have a lock, so you at least have that mod with 3 dice against 2 defense. Averages, you're probably going to get your 1 damage you need. Jam, deplete, everything goes down. So that revenge shot becomes almost nothing.
1 damage, I'll take it.
Yeah, sure. It's a crit.
Yeah,
don't forget that. So what? Maybe that's a tool for even Vader, right? Like, Dengar, shoot me first. Hopefully your Vader isn't locked. Then you might have messed up your range band engagements there. Might also want to look at bringing bigger obstacles. Dengar is not super maneuverable. You have a big base. Bring big rocks. Make him move. Make him commit to something. Ships that do have, or lists that do have a lot of ships, tend to do well because unless you're a vulture, and even sometimes a vulture can live from a proton torpedo, but it's actually not that often ships get one-shotted in this game. So most of the time Dengar is going to need to shoot that ship twice, because most of these Dengars don't seem to have R3 astromech or R5P8, which is weird. I feel like R5P8 should be utilized on Dengar in most of these variations, even though I think you need to take punishing one. So the punishing one versions that I saw, I don't think Eno had R5P8, which felt weird to me because I felt like you want the offensive reroll. But you can trade well with Dengar. The 2 shots seem scary, but if you're trading one of your ships, and assuming you have 4+5, even 5+ ship lists, like the more ships you have, the more likely Dengar is going to get halved, and the 1 ship he killed is going to be less than the half of Dengar anyway. So as long as you are threatening enough and don't let Boba literally do whatever he wants, like, you can still trade against Dengar. Anything that doesn't need to commit their front arc, that has multiple arcs or side arcs or back arcs. I talked about it, I think, last week. Could see a Ryzen Han Falcon, 5 A-Wings, because they don't have to point at Dengar. You could be looking at more SFs. Anything that has a turret of any capacity could help circumvent the need to joust in any manner.
All right, now I want to bring up a possible, and I think this pilot, we may have found his niche because we have not seen this pilot played almost at all, which is going to come up again a little bit later, and I want to talk about it. And that is everybody's favorite friend, Fen Rao in the Sheathipede. For those of you who don't remember what his ability is, because we haven't seen it very much, is before an enemy ship in your firing arc engages, if you are not stressed, you may gain 1 stress. If you do, that ship cannot spend tokens to modify while it performs an attack during this phase. Now, I know he's pretty expensive. He's 50 points with nothing on him. Okay? Is initiative 6. He's not there to attack. His ability is there to say, no, you cannot hurt me. All right, it's to take away those modifiers. And we have evidence from, while the game has changed, we have evidence from first edition to show that this ability can be really powerful, which is the reason why it's so expensive. FFG knows that it's really powerful. And I think if we start to see this, a rise of a 2-ship meta, I think one of the first pieces of tech people are going to start looking at, or maybe not first, but eventually, you start looking at Fenrau. Now, what you build around him, we could talk about that a little bit later, but we know that, let's talk about Dengar specifically. Dengar likes to modify his dice. Usually what ends up happening, Dengar rolls in, takes a target lock with his action, and then you Han Gunner for the focus. Fenrau can say, you can't spend either of those tokens, because spending a lock is also spending a token. So Dengar would be firing just basically on average 2 hits with that proton torpedo, which just feels bad. Of course, for Boba Fett could still have his rerolls, but if he's got calculates or something like that, that gives you some options there. The survivability of Fenrau is an issue, but maybe you can play around that. But it's something that we know that Dengar specifically really likes modifiers. If you can start taking away modifiers from either of those pilots or both, I think that's one of the ways that you can really battle it. If you know that maybe you're in a league with somebody who really likes to play those combinations of ships, that could be an option. Now, before we move on to our next topic, Will, Ryan, Marcel, is there anything else about Boba Dengar that you want to throw out there?
Well, just actually more on what you went. Tools that have not been used lately, or haven't been very popular, but have a place. I think another similar tool to that would be to the Fenrau would be Padme. Nobody ever uses really Padme, but Padme's ability can work both with Boba Fett and Dengar, because you can only modify 1 focus token, which means, let's say Boba gets in and rolls in at range 1. If he rolls, hit, crit, focus, whatever, he can only re-roll the blanks. He can't re-roll any of the focuses. And if he re-rolls a focus, that means he can't use any focus, or he can only re-roll 1 of them. Same thing on defense. You could, if, even at range 1, if he rolls multiple focuses, it's going to only re-roll the focus 1 once and not be able to modify it again, because he's already modified it once. So he can't re-roll and then spend the token afterwards. Same thing with the torpedoes. So if the torpedo shoots and you get multiple focuses, you can only focus once, or change 1 of them, and that includes both re-rolling or spending the token. Again, I don't know how good Padme is, especially at Initiative 4. She's also in that kind of expensive range as well. How many points is she?
Not sure off the top of my head.
She's 40-something. Yeah, I think she's 44, I believe. But yeah, I mean, it's cheaper, probably a little bit more survivable than Fenrau.
She's 45
because of the free. Yeah, but also has a harder time keeping the ship on target, keeping the ship in its arc. But little tools like that, again, they're effective. But then when you play against another list that has other things that will punish this, so even with the Fenrau one, yeah, it's one of those things where, well, it does well against Boba Dengar, but how is it going to do against the rest of the field? And then
that's very true.
Situations, yeah,
that's very true.
Like things that are hyper focused on killing a specific build tend to struggle against the rest of the field, in which we ran a lot into that in 1.0 where everybody was trying to tech either for one list or use one list or use something that beats that one list. And if you're playing the one that beats that one list, you become fodder towards some of the other just average lists out there. Or one of the 5A wings, by the way. 5A wings, I know you love them, Dion. But not only 5A wings, I also think 5A wings and also the scum list that has like the Octocon. Basically things with 3 agility. A lot of ships with 3 agility, they give very bad variance to those torpedoes and everything else. And you just need a couple good defensive rolls, and next thing you know, they're struggling to put any damage on you.
Yeah. A couple of other, pilots and abilities that affect modifiers, which shout out to the chat for people bringing them up here. We'll go ahead and bring it so that you guys can see. Magva does actually work against Boba Fett. Says, while a friendly, this is by the way, Magva is a U-Wing pilot, Initiative 3 for the Rebellion. Says, while a friendly ship at range 0 to 2 defends, the attacker cannot reroll more than 1 attack die. So that can actually affect the, hello spider. There's a spider walking right in front of my camera. Anyway, sorry about that. It does affect Boba Fett's attacks. And then another one that was brought up, which I like this one less just because it's an aggressor. But while you perform an attack after the defender rolls defense dice, you may spend 1 focus token to cancel all of the defender's blanks or focus results. So Boba Fett versus Kestel. Kestel can actually get damage into Boba Fett. I think I like Fen Rao's and Magva's abilities just a little better because you can help out buddies and yourself, not just yourself. But again, still an option when list building. Now, sorry, Will, was there anything else you wanted to throw in there?
Other than, just out acing them. That's got to be the a possibility. What is Timo's list bid?
199.
199. So you only need a 2-point bid to ace him. So I think that's a fairly easy route to go. You have a lot of options for that. We're talking about Von Rog, Vader, Soontir, all those high reposition, fast I-6s would do the trick. Has anybody talked about Han Solo for the Rebels?
I think I think that up earlier. Ryan brought it up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I thought. Yeah, he would also technically fit into that as well.
And I will say, to expand upon some of the other stuff earlier, we've seen Padme do well in a couple, in I think both space champs already. So we know certain lists can run through the field with using Padme, which can be used well against Dengar. And then reading through Fen Rao, he would work on both attacks, wouldn't he? He says for the duration of this phase. So once he uses his ability once,
yeah, you can't do it at all. It's like those tokens are useless.
Yep. So I-6 coordinates good too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the only other thing I can think of is jamming. Ryan mentioned with the Mag Pulse warheads, things like Reapers. What else has jam? Hawks, G1As, things like that. If you could get close enough to Dengar to jam him in that opening, he won't be able to take lock as his action then.
Yep, and a chopper on an Aether Sprite.
Here's
the erratic chopper.
Here is
yeah. I was like chopper ghost would technically work. The ghost pilot, because he gives out 2 jams, which will jam a previous lock and that Han Solo focus.
So if you're ever
But,
looking for a place to see like where can I just find things that have jam on Yasby through the card browser, that's one way you can do it. You can actually search by actions available. Where is it? Right here, by actions. I typed in jam there, and it gave me every pilot that has jam on its bar. You also have different ships that do it as well. This is for pilots. So just if you're thinking that way, like Will is talking about here, like an action, here's an option for you to.
Yeah, actually, that list, I just peeked out somebody who is kind of niche as well that could work, and it's Petty Officer Thanison. Let me double check that wording on it. Petty Officer Thanison in the Upsilon says during the activation or engagement phase, after a ship in your front arc at range 0 to 2 gains a stress token, you may spend one charge. It'd just be one tractor token. I thought it was jam. Never
Sad.
mind.
Yep. If
Sad,
it was
sad.
jam, it would be like, oh, you sure you want a Han Gunner? Because that's red.
Yeah, because I think I'm thinking of crew. That's what it was. The crew version is very similar, but it says it's only 0 to 1 gains an orange or red token. If they gain a stress,
gain another of that token.
right? So you could double stress Dengar pretty quickly with a Petty Officer Thanison crew, but it has a lot less utility apparently.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump into our next topic for today, which is one that might get a little, not heated, but it's a little bit of a sticky subject. All right. Because it is relevant to maybe some things you have been seeing out there on Facebook and stuff like that. So, and that is specifically talking about buying and selling X-Wing ships, accessories, prizes, like person-to-person sales specifically. It's really common where people are either like, all right, I'm focusing on just a certain faction. I want to play only First Order. I'm selling my rebels, or the unfortunate situation where somebody's like selling a collection. But there's also a lot of people who win prizes, and maybe they won 2 sets of system open templates, and they're selling the other one, and that is part of like the X-Wing economy especially for tournament players who sell their prizes in order to continue to fund their trips to other events when that comes back online. But it's just something that happens all the time. And the reason I'm bringing it up is recently someone who I consider an X-Wing friend was actually scammed via a Facebook transaction. Now, the scammer person does have their name out there. I'm not going to use my platform to go and like put a person's name out there, but we're going to talk about how to safely deal in these transactions so that you don't end up being screwed over, because that feels bad. And one of the biggest things that I love about X-Wing is the fact that the community is almost always really positive and all that, and there are sometimes bad apples that can ruin that feeling of positivity for some people. So here's just a couple of things that we want to kind of get out there to people in the community to avoid being screwed over. So let's just Marcel, what is one thing that you can do to protect yourself? Crickets.
Go to tournaments and win them yourself. No.
Fact.
No, seriously, just buy from people that you know personally, or that you know people that know them. You may not know them personally, but just ask around. I mean, the X-Wing community is pretty small. There's not that many of us around. So just go, and there's plenty of pages. There's the Fly Better page has obviously a lot of traffic going through it. Also, I forget the name of it, but like the page for the UK group is similarly always busy. So just ask, go on there, and don't put nobody out, but just get to know people and ask around and ask people that buy and sell. I mean,
So here's a perfect
Reddit
example,
is
right?
another one as well. Huh?
Like a known person who is constantly who like wins a lot of stuff would be like Duncan Howard, right? Duncan Howard is always selling his winnings. I am fairly confident that if you're buying from Duncan Howard, you're gonna be fine. Like you're gonna get your stuff. Will, other thoughts in this realm on how to protect yourself when trying to buy these things?
Definitely want to think about the way your transaction involves money. That sentence did not go right. How you transfer your money to the person. You need to be very careful. Use a secured website. I can't think of anything but PayPal off the top of my head. But there's plenty of other ones, and there's settings on those to make sure that when you do transfer money, that you have a way to request a refund back on that. So you're not stuck with that money out. If you never get your product, you can use things like PayPal's to ask for a refund, which normally they're pretty competent about getting that money back to you. That I'm not exactly familiar with. Dion, I'm sure you could elaborate more on that.
That's actually the segue I was looking for, Will. You alley-oop right here, right to me, baby. All right, so when you send somebody money on PayPal, you have two options. You have friends and family, and you have goods and services. When you buy, look, I want to get up. Use goods and services, okay? Don't do friends and family unless the person is actually friends or family, okay? I will tell you, the first sign where you should probably just stop working with somebody is if you're on one of these swap and sell, groups on Facebook, which are fine and great and they have their place, and they say friends and family only. Don't even do it. Just walk away. Now, let's talk about the differences there. Yes, in the goods and services, when you send somebody money with goods and services, it charges the recipient of that money a fee. But in that fee is essentially your insurance. So if I'm a seller and I'm worried about the fee, the 3% and there's like a 30-cent fee that is part of that, just raise the price a little bit. All right, like it's very easy to cover, and that 3% plus 30 cents protects you in the event that the person did not send you the items. They send you the wrong items. Then PayPal, you have recourse in which to get it back. But once you press that button with friends and family, you're done. You are over. You're not getting your money back unless you individually know the person and have that good relationship where they're willing to send it back to you. Don't do it. This is how the person that we talked about in the beginning of this segment is scamming people. They're saying friends and family only. Here's this item that I have. The person never sends the item. You friends and family'd the transaction. Your money is gone. Okay, guys? If you're buying stuff, use a secure way to buy it. A couple of other ways to go ahead and safe places to buy. eBay is a safe place to buy. Why? Well, that's because inside of eBay there is a insurance built in, that buyer protection. But again, that buyer protection is covered inside of the fees that the seller has to pay when they sell the item. In Etsy shop is another great example. Okay, if somebody has an Etsy shop that sells, and this is now going into not just like used ships, but like X-Wing product and stuff like that. Anytime you're paying for your X-Wing stuff with friends and family, you are risking that type of just not getting your money back. So just be smart about it, be safe, and we can go ahead and flip this and talking about selling X-Wing stuff, because first thing we said is, listen, don't be a jerk. Just go ahead, do the goods and services, PayPal. You know what would super give everybody confidence buying from you? If you say, good, you can only pay me with PayPal goods and services. Don't even, somebody offers friends and family, you're like, no, I don't want your friends and family money. I want to make sure you're protected. All right? Like, that will instill confidence into the person who is buying from you. All right? Now, Marcel, you have sold stuff, X-Wing things before, yes? He's running back to his computer. Oh, he called my name.
Muted. Yeah.
So, like, you have. So let's talk about some of your. You don't have to talk like say names or anything like that or prices, but specifically, let's talk about some of the different situations that you have, like some of the different methods that you've used to sell stuff back and forth.
Well, it's mostly been through the X-Wing group Swap and Sell on Facebook. And it's just private messages and PayPal. And I mean, I don't know if I asked for goods and services or the other way around. I don't really, like, whatever they pay with is whatever they pay with. I've never really run it. I mean, I guess I'm the one always shipping it, so
right.
I want to be. I mean, I'm getting the money before I ship it. So yeah, I mean, we've never really had any issue. The only issue we probably have had is when we're shipping stuff internationally, gets stuck in customs, and it takes a long time for it to get through.
It sure does.
And then somebody's asking like, "Hey, man, I bought this like 2 weeks ago, and where is it?" So what I do, or what we started doing, and I'm saying we because Kayla helps me sell a lot of the stuff, is what we do is we actually get the tracking numbers, and we take a picture of the receipt of the shipment, and then we send the, you know, on Messenger, I'll send the receipt of the shipment, like, here's the shipment, here's the numbers, and you can see where it's at that way. Because one time before we started doing that, we were sending something which wasn't even far, it was just to Canada, but for some reason it got stuck in customs for like 3 or 4 weeks. And you know, we gave the refund, and then the stuff got there, and you know, thankfully the guy was you know, honest about it. He's like, hey, you give me a refund, but it finally came, you know, it finally got here, and then sent the money back. But yeah, I say, if as a seller, definitely put tracking on everything you ship, and take a picture of it and send it as like proof of, you know, that you sent it. That way, if it gets stuck, if it gets lost, if it gets anything, the person who bought it has the, you know, the ability to check up on it. Doesn't need to come and ask you like, hey, where is it at? They can just put in the tracking code.
And Marcel, I like the taking a picture of the receipt, because you can send numbers to anybody and say that this is the tracking number, but like having that additional, like, look, here's the receipt where I paid for it. You know, that's just that extra level of security and customer service, baby.
Yeah, and not only that, it also shows how much you paid for because and sometimes, you know, people might say shipping included or shipping not included, and they'll say, oh, it's an extra $5 for shipping. Well, is it really? So you just take a picture of it and say, hey, this is what I paid, this is what I sent, this is when I sent it, and it's got all the details in it. If you go to the post office, which typically is the cheapest, but if, you know, FedEx or UPS or wherever you ship it from, all the information will be on that receipt.
Awesome. Ryan, anything else you want to throw in here?
Pretty much everything was covered. I mean, I have done a little bit of selling on eBay before. It's mainly just been for some extra models that I had, any old first edition stuff people wanted. And yeah, so just be like as upfront and as descriptive as possible about what you're selling, so that you'll never be in a situation where you're trying to mitigate the potential situations of anyone not feeling like they got what they expected. So the more pictures, the more descriptive of not only what it is, the state it's in, the exact edition it's part of, exactly which expansion it was from. Everything you can be as descriptive about too, the better. You don't want to be in a situation where you're like, oh, here's an X-Wing expansion, and then just show a picture of an X-Wing on a peg, and then you send them a 1.0 X-Wing and they were expecting a 2.0 X-Wing, right? So just be as descriptive as possible and as upfront as possible, even if you feel like when you take a picture of your ship, you're not trying to bend your wing back because it got bent a little bit, right? Just be upfront about it. You obviously don't want any more because you're selling it. If it's not in the best condition, just point out the few little flaws. People will understand, and that's why you set it at a correct price if it is not in the best of condition, right?
That's right.
Be fair and be descriptive.
Transparency is the best policy. It's just it solves so many issues. And if a problem happens, if you're transparent from the beginning, it's really easy to start that conversation. It doesn't feel awkward. You guys know when things are like veiled behind a curtain, you feel weird asking the question, and then the person who maybe didn't give all the information feels defensive. It's just transparency. Awesome. Now we got a question of the week, and Ryan, I'm going to have you answer our question of the week here. I want to hear your opinion on this, and then we have some lists of the week that we're going to hit. So our question of the week comes from Agnes, and of course you can always submit questions and lists of the week on our Discord, !Discord if you're watching right now on Twitch, or check the description below if you are watching on YouTube later on, or of course listening on your favorite podcast listening app. And the question is, do you see FFG adding a boost, red or white, upgrade card back into the game as a modification upgrade? Would it need variable points for initiative or size of ship, or do we have all we're gonna get with Afterburners?
So I'm never gonna say never, because I never thought they were just going to give us reinforce. But at least that's there's a cost to angle deflectors. Like you lose a stat value to gain reinforce, which so far we haven't seen being used. If this would ever come to fruition, I would really hope it's a red boost only. Adding a white boost is extremely powerful. It would probably need variable points upgrade, and realistically there would be some weird mathematical formula to figure out ship size and initiative, because both are extremely valuable with boost. Size of ship means you go further with a boost, but also higher initiative means that reposition action is more valuable at a higher initiative as well. So that's really hard to balance for sure. I think Afterburners is definitely what we're going to have to settle with for in my opinion, the foreseeable future. What I'm curious is, like, I don't see a reason to add that card in the game right now. Like, sure, I think it'd be really cool if I got Ketsu with engine upgrade back, but man, that'd probably be pretty impressive still. And maybe there could be other ships that feel like it'd be cool if they had engine upgrade back, but it's probably cool because they just got a lot more powerful. I don't know what ships in the game you could add boost to, even red, and like really want that and have it not potentially cause a problem for maybe the rest of the game. If you limit it to certain ship sizes, then you're just an opposite to Afterburners, because Afterburners already does that with small ships. Most large ships that have access to boost, they have it on their action bars with the Falcon. I think it's the only one, actually. So I don't know. I guess I'd be curious to hear from Marcel and Will. What do you think Ignis was looking for to adding boost besides Afterburners? Like, what do we feel something's missing that maybe they desire to have red or white boost on? Because I'm of the opinion I'm cool with Afterburners, and the ships that I boost I'm fine by me. I guess I'm very reserved and cautious to add that to the game.
Yeah, I think it's like you said. when people ask for it, it's probably because they have this really powerful combo in mind, and they're like, yeah, I would like to be able to do that. Ketsu is, like you said, one of the first ones that comes to mind. Put Ketsu with Maul and Predator. I mean Maul and Fearless, and that's it. Ketsu could be anywhere. Could do 3 hard boost. Same thing. Then you throw that on somebody like Chopper, VCX, and things like that. Or can you imagine Hera with the bid and boost? Like, yeah, good luck.
Advanced sensors boost at that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Advanced sensors boost, and then change the dial to anything else you want. Especially she can change a blue dial to another blue dial. Oh, yeah. Just no. Big no on that. Ships that don't have it for a reason. So even some ships that have it, I think they probably should not have it. But you can see how powerful just even 2 charges are with afterburners on ships like Vader. I mean, it's a staple. You can't be without it. And when you every time that you use that afterburners charge, you have to. It's an important choice because it's such a powerful tool. And if you had a way of giving Vader a permanent boost, even if it requires an action, yeah, that's way too powerful.
Yeah, I actually, on the topic of like an engine upgrade style, it would have to have like a whole paragraph under it about how you couldn't take any other actions. You have to keep the stress. You have to do it as you perform action step. There would be like this whole list of things to stop it from being real oppressive. Though, on the flip side of that, I think Afterburners is a well-designed card, and I would actually enjoy more options in that realm of Afterburners. I'm talking a modification that costs 6 points, has 2 charges, but lets you take an evade action twice a game. What about one that just lets you take a white bear roll twice a game, right? These are Dream Theory. Thanks for the subscribe. These are design spaces, and I mean, let me bounce that to you guys. I mean, you'd essentially pay 6 points and 2 charges for any additional action, whether it's target lock, focus, whatever, right?
I would. Any action. Focus, target lock, evade, anything. I mean, if you give it a free action and I can still take my regular action twice a game, yeah, there's always opportunities where you wish you had an additional action or an additional token.
Yeah, and most of these extra, any action outside of focus or ships that only calculate and target lock, or maybe if the ship doesn't have target lock yet, some of these actions are only used a couple times a game. So just because they have charges doesn't mean they're not going to be useful, even in the limited amount. It just forces a limited amount to occur and makes people use it as a resource that is limited instead of unlimited. And as soon as you mentioned the evade one, I immediately thought, like, man, we can bring back Marcel's card thrust corrector and just make that the evade charge one.
Marcel's like, yes, relevance, it's back, baby.
my 1 month of glory.
Awesome. Great discussion on that, guys. Great discussion. Okay, now let's go ahead and jump into list of the week. We got 4 lists today. Yes, even Dion is going to participate in a little bit of list of the week today, and I'm gonna start. So our list today. Oh, let's make sure I get this looking good. All right, there we go. So our list today comes from Deslin. It's a rebel list, and the prompt here says, looking for a way to fight back against heavily modified dice but has a punch. So this was designed when there was more a longer paragraph here, but he was thinking about Boba Fett and Dengar. We talked about Fen Rao and the Sheathipede, and it is in this list. His version right now has Fen Rao and the Sheathipede with Jyn Erso. Then you have Wedge with crack shot proton torpedoes and S-foils. Luke Skywalker with instinctive aim, proton torpedoes, and servo motor S-foils. Now, in his description, he also talked about like basically taking Marcel's AP5 list and trying to apply it to this debuffing of Boba Fett and Dengar. And looking at this, there are a couple of things that I don't like about it right off the bat, but I'm not going to change any pilots. I'm going to leave it right there. But there's a couple of things that I think we can change in order just to make it more efficient. I came up with 5 different options. I'm going to do this William style real quick, all right? I'm going to do real fast, all right? So the first thing I want to say, in all of my versions, I take instinctive aim out of the list. I do not like instinctive aim. I know what it does. Okay, yes, you can spend the force and be able to fire the proton torpedo. But you are putting so much stock in luck when this happens. So let's talk about a little bit of the math, all right? Because you guys know I like to go to the math. So let's say you've already spent a force on something. So you maybe it was on defense against a Boba Fett or a Dengar attack, and you only have a single force, and you decide to use instinctive aim in order to fire your proton torpedo because you didn't have a lock. On average, you are only getting 2 hits. All right, because you're rolling 4 naked dice essentially in that situation. Let's say you have both your force. You spend 1 force, and now you have 1 available. On average, you have 2.6 hits. All right. So again, and that is that both Boba Fett and Dengar have 2 defense dice. So in some situations, it's feeling really bad. You're maybe doing 1 damage, maybe on this not so modified attack, and you're wasting a force at the same time. This is versus the normal situation that Luke usually finds himself in when he rolls in, has a target lock, takes it for his action, and has both force available. That's 3.67 hits. So why am I paying 3 points for instinctive aim when most of the time I can get a better attack with just taking a target lock? Now, what about a situation where you couldn't get a target lock in the first place? It's just better just to take the focus than use instinctive aim, have those force available for your defense, and maybe don't even worry about the torpedo if you don't have it that time. So in all of my versions, instinctive aim is gone. All right. Now, if we want to add some force in there, you go ahead and add heightened perception. In this case now, that allows you to fire at initiative 7. That maybe gives you an opportunity to initiative kill some stuff. And your proton torpedo is still pretty potent with 3.46 hits if you have that 1 force and the target lock available. Option 2, you can go ahead and add R3 Astromech to both of the X-Wings. I don't like this one as much, but if you're worried about 2-ship lists, you get target locks on both. First pass, take a shot at one of the bad guys. You take another pass and take a shot at the other. Option number 3, if you're worried about protecting Fen Rao, you go ahead and you give him a shield upgrade. Option 4, you could take and put Leia in there by removing crack shot. But my favorite one was that first one I said there, heightened perception on Luke Skywalker. Leave it right there, and then I would also remove Jyn Erso from the list, get a little bit of a bid, and that at least gets you underneath that 199 that Timo is bringing. So I would end up with Luke Skywalker with heightened perception, proton, Wedge with Kraken proton, and Fen Rao naked. That's what I would do. All right, now Ryan, you got a list here from Nano Antonio. Let's go ahead and pull this onto the screen now. The list is Shara Bay with R3 Astromech, Garvin with nothing. This is a Garvin in the ARC 170, by the way. Jake in the A-Wing with no upgrades, and then a Warden Squadron pilot with Perceptive co-pilot. The Warden, by the way, is the Initiative 2 K-Wing. And the prompt here says, Will mentioned a similar list a couple weeks ago and got me to switch from Dutch to Jake in this list. This has 16 points left over, and I'd be interested to hear how one of the other hosts would do with this list. So, Ryan, give us your flavor.
So I think this is one of the rare times where we do actually utilize a pilot that we don't see very often, because this is a very focus generating list. And on top of that perceptive co-pilot and the warden, I think we do actually upgrade that warden to Asegi to Ketu. I've seen something like this on Vassal, and I was moderately impressed by what it was doing. I don't think the variation I saw had Jake, because they have put Garvin down to an X-Wing and upgraded Jake to something else. But I do like Garvin in an ARC 170 when you can take him. It's obviously a lot more beef to chew through. And technically his range band is increased with his base size. So, and with more points remaining still, definitely barrage rockets on Asegi. It's just natively a really good secondary weapon to have on the K-Wing. Just point the arcs, the double arc to the side, and you got barrage rocket forward. So you have 2 points remaining. You have a couple different directions you can actually go with this. One initial thought is you have so many focus tokens going around between Jake giving a focus, Asegi getting double focus. Garvin can take a target lock if he has the range for it, and use Asegi's focuses, and then use Garvin ability to bounce his focus even out to somebody else, back to Asegi even, or to Shara Bey, who is already equipped with R3. Shara Bey I used I think a week or two ago on League Night. I actually think Shara Bey could be increasing in viability. Not that she ever wasn't, but there's just more tools and exploration, utilizing points changing and all that. But you could also put Jyn Erso crew on Garvin for those last 2 points. You could be in a situation where you're facing a lower initiative list, and you then decide to say, okay, all my ships have shot, or I have all the mods necessary after Garvin shoots, and the focus Garvin passes can be an evade this time, and give a ship that you know is going to take some return fire a guaranteed evade versus one they might have to spend a focus on. Maybe if you know a ship can't get a shot, and like Jake has to maneuver himself in a way where he's not going to have his arc pointed at somebody, but you'd rather use his shenanigans, you could utilize, you could still take evade, boost, and then give a focus to someone else, but it's a little more defensive flexibility. You could also look at chopper crew on Shara, that she can still do a 4K and take a lock by just taking a damage with chopper or flipping a face down damage card. If you're going to do that, I would recommend that you either have a focus from Asegi for Shara to spend, or passed it from Jake, or Garvin plans to volley one over. So lots of ways that Shara can still get that focus before, or spend from other ships giving it to her, or using Asegi after the K turn and still getting the lock if you need to swap locks. If your R3 ship, one of your locks died, another one's leaving, since you have two locks. You can look at Zeb if you're trying out this list more and you're finding stuff's running into either Garvin or Shara more. Zeb Aurelio's crew could be all right. Know that they're going to be shooting back at you, but if you're getting good at, if you're putting Shara in a spot to say, okay, I'm either going to shoot you or you're going to run into me, and Shara's shot is really dangerous. Anyone who runs into you is going to be even worse off, because they're not going to get an action because they got blocked, and they're going to be shot by a 5-die return shot from Shara. If that's the max, if she can get the no blanks, and you can add the focus and then just spend focus on everything to make 5 hits. So her return fire can be really deadly. So utilizing Zeb means if you run into her, she'll still shoot you back. You can still shoot her, but you probably bumped into her. So there's a lot of flexibility. And even obviously we have the reliable crack shot. We got Shara and Garvin who can both take crack shot. So 2 points can definitely be played with. I don't think it really is necessary for a bid. There's no 2-point bomb, so it really is potential crew or 2 on Shara or Garvin, or crack shots would round that out.
All right, fantastic. Our next list comes to us from Lord Renkor. And this is an Imperial list. And the prompt here is, oops, sorry, lost my page. It says, I've had a lot of fun with this list at home against my son who plays a lot of CIS. I'm looking for some constructive criticism. We are newer to the game and we only play hyperspace. So the list is Rear Admiral Sharanu, Rack in the Decimator with Ruthless, Fifth Brother, and Dauntless. Mauler Mythal in the TIE Fighter with Ruthless. And 2 Tempest Squadron pilots, those are the Initiative 2 TIE Advanced X1s with Fire Control System, and that rounds out to 200 points. All right, Will, how are you going to help out this newer player?
Well, I'm going to start by taking a lot of points off of Rack. With the Dauntless and the Reinforce could keep Rack alive for a very long time against multiple shots coming in, but I'm actually going to take off all of I'm going to take out the Force User, the Title, and Ruthless for now. Just because if Rack is caught in a bad spot, he could get chewed up very quickly by a swarm. So most of the time you're going to want to just keep him as a turret flying around the outside, shooting in to the swarm, and not trying to go jousting it straight up. So I do like the Tempest Squadrons there. They're Initiative 2. They put out crits. They have modifiers. Once you get that initial lock, you can keep it until that ship is dead. So I really like them. For that Initiative 2, most Vulture Swarms are at I1 for pure efficiency. So I'm going to keep them. I like them. He won me over with the Fire Control System already on them. So let's just leave those be. Then the one I am worried about, though, is that Mauler Mythal with, I think he had Ruthless on him, too. Let's just drop that. He's going to get caught. Easily blocked. Most of the time shooting unmodified 4 dice attacks. If he does get into range 1, because he's going to want to save his focus for defense if he's having to trade shots like that. I do get the ruthlessness on him to ding into Rack, especially Rack, to guarantee kill on a Vulture. That I totally understand, but you're going to be taking a lot of damage, so I really don't want to be doing Ruthless onto my own ships. So we're going to put in actually a support ship. We're going to put in a Reaper, the Vizier. I never say his name right. Is it just Vizier?
Vizier, yeah.
All right, fair enough.
You're the captain. You call him whatever you want.
I've been calling him Vizier, so I don't know if that's right now. Anyways, Vizier's got he's a Reaper, which is fairly quick, especially on that medium base with the ailerons, the adaptive ailerons, but has an interesting abilities here. So it says, after you fully executed one speed maneuver using your ailerons, you perform a coordinate action, and if you do use step, you perform action step. So most of the time, you're going to use his ability right before you do like a red maneuver. They have a bunch of red stops, sloops, and hard turns are all red. So it gives you an action even when you're doing those stressful maneuvers. But the reason why I like him in this is that Vizier is actually the same initiative as these Tempest Squadrons as well. And that's the best time to coordinate, is when you can coordinate before or after a ship could move. Because remember, the Tempests have focus-linked barrel rolls. So Vizier could go up, give one that focus linked barrel roll, then it could 2-bank and then target lock as well. So I really like that kind of synergy there. Plus, also, if you're keeping him in the back, then you can give Rack out his double modifier. So you can give him the reinforce, and then he can move and take a target lock. So you will have to be a little bit careful with him because of his 8 health and 1 agility versus Swarm. But he is very fast on that medium base. So as long as you keep doing... the only problem with the Vizier is when you get into that stress loop, right, to where you don't ailerons, so now you don't have your ability, and then you do a red coordinate next... so you're essentially stuck just doing red coordinate every single round, and then just like 1 banking. That's not what you want to get stuck doing. So try to keep his dial open. Try not to use the red maneuvers. Just bank ailerons, 3-bank, bank ailerons, 3-bank, and hanging out with your friends. So that does leave us though with some extra points. I believe should be 197.
Yep, you got 3.
Oh yeah, and we're gonna put on seismic charges on the decimator there. So because I would employ him as an outside turret of just shooting into the fight, basically providing cover fire for these Tempests. There is a chance that there's a higher chance that he will fly past an obstacle, and those vultures will cut in to try to, keep to lead Rack there. He can just blow them up as well. And plus, vultures love sitting on rocks, so why not blow them up? And Rack's not the most maneuverable ship, so he might actually want a couple obstacles removed from the board, just so he can drive around a little bit easier on a second pass, right? So it ends up being Rack with just seismic charges, 2 Tempest squadrons with fire control system, and a naked Vizier.
Excellent. And last but not least, we have a list coming to us from Sadmiral Lakpar, or aka Jamie Scott. Let's go ahead and put that here. And this is a CIS list, and Marcel is going to go ahead and Marcel Smiley Face is going to go ahead and take care of this one. We got a Hyena bomber, the bombardment drone with trajectory simulator, proton bombs, delayed fuses, and landing struts. Another Hyena bombardment drone, filled out the same exact way. Chertek in the Nantex with elusive and ensnare, and Grievous with outmaneuver, impervium plating, and soulless 1. And here are the prompts from Sadmiral Lakpar. It says, I think the most interchangeable parts of this list are elusive, struts, and outmaneuver, and also the bomb play. But it forces hard choices either way. Also, when your shields are down, Grievous can tank a proton bomb. Obstacles would most likely be the biggest debris. All right, Marcel, what do you see? Look into your crystal ball.
I see. So, let's start off with the bombardment drones. Now, the bombardment drones, their ability is if you would drop a device, you may launch that device instead using the same template. So you're not going to launch it, with a 5-speed forward, but you will be able to put that, give you choices of putting a device in front of you or behind you. So having said that, I think on them the trajectory simulator is kind of a little bit of an overkill, and it takes away from some of the other things they could probably be doing. So let's get rid of the
trajectory simulators.
Trajectory blah, 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 blah.
And that leaves you with 12 points open right now.
So it gives you 12 points to play with. Let's also get rid of the proton bombs that are initiative 5s. Initiative that are 5 points. And one of the things that really work with these ships, and we've seen it work before in some of the games, like there's some on that have been recorded as proximity mines. These ships do really well with proximity mines. So let's put proximity mines on both of these guys. All right. And let's throw the proton bombs back on there.
You want
So he
proton
wanted
instead
proton
of
bombs.
the.
So we'll leave the proton. So basically, all we did is really just switched out the trajectory simulator.
But he said he can. He said you can change
you
the
got a
bomb
double,
play.
You got a second pay. You got a second slot. So
Oh,
you're
you
gonna
want
keep
them
the
both?
proximity.
You said por qué
Yeah.
no los dos?
Porque no los dos? So you got it.
Got it.
So yeah, so basically all we did there is just took the trajectory simulator and changed it for proximity mines. The proximity mines, especially with delayed fuses, gives you a lot of flexibility. You can drop a bomb, fly through it, burn the charge from the delayed fuse, and then let somebody else come on it. It's just a lot of flexibility, and you still get that proton bomb effect, especially if you're flying against ships like like a droid swarm, like a separatist swarm or something like that. So you still keep that. Now you are, if I am not it says right here 200 points.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that itself might be good enough, but we're gonna do one more thing. Chertek with elusiveness. While elusiveness is a decent defensive ability, it's not one of the things that you'd never want to do with Nantex in general is red maneuvers. Salud, bless you.
Thank you.
And so you want to get rid of elusive. You never really want to do red maneuvers with those guys anyway. But thinking defensively, one of the things that is really good on Nantex defensively is treacherous. So treacherous allows you to give somebody a strain token that was between you and whoever's shooting you, in order to get rid of a hit or a crit result. So that's a guaranteed
Reduction of one hit, yeah.
Of one hit plus
Or crit in a good
crit.
situation.
Yep. Plus, it also allows you, if it's somebody that shoots you from behind their own ship, allows you to strain one of your opponent's ships as well, and then that also recharges as ships die, and that doesn't matter if it's your own ship or somebody else's ship, as long as somebody dies within range 0 to 3, you can. It is 0 to 3, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Actually, there is 0 to 3. After a ship at range 0 to 3 is destroyed, recover a charge, so you can recover it. And I wouldn't change anything from General Grievous. I mean, that's
standard.
Kind of the average. Yeah, that's the standard. And being that your initiative 4, similar to the list that Ryan was changing, the bids really don't matter at this point. So you don't want to do anything to try to get a bid. So. Yeah, just like that. So basically, it's 2 bombardment drones with 2 types of bomb, proximity and proton bombs, delayed fuses and landing struts, treacherous and then snare on Chertek, and a loaded out General Grievous without maneuver, impervium plating, and soulless one.
All right, we haven't done it in a while. We're going to go ahead and put up the poll. Which was your favorite list of the week changes, okay? Not talking about the list, but your favorite evolution of the list. Which one did you approve of the most? Let us know. All you got to type is 1, 2, 3, or 4 in the chat. 1 is Ryan, 2 is Marcel, 3 is William, 4 is Dion. Why is it that order? Because that's what it was on my saved one, and I didn't want to rearrange it. So go ahead and put in your votes now. I want to say thank you to everybody who joined us today. I know I had a great time. I think today's episode was pretty solid. And before we go, we're of course going to give our people some time to put out their poll. Ryan, you got any shout outs for anybody out there in your X-Wing community?
Shout out to my local stores who are on the cusp of reopening. They are all opening up for curbside pickup. They are taking orders. They're getting stock in, and I implore everybody to go out and support their local store. They may not be able to open up their gaming space to play yet, but that is where you game. Go support them.
Will?
I'm sending out some trash talk
let's go.
To the Vassal Team Tournament Team Bounty Hunters 2. Me, Marcel, and Davin Finnith if you know him by that name. I've joined up on Vessel in I think their first team tournament. Yeah, it's season 1, so I assume this is their first organized team tournament. We got paired up, and I'm excited to bring the smack down. People did some pretty innovative things on this team tournament to get their list bid down, their team list bid down. So I want to give I don't know who.
My team had the biggest bid.
Are you two-hearted?
Yes, we are.
Oh,
Who did the big brain move of the 168 Boba Fett?
This guy.
This guy? All right. Well, I'm giving you a shout out for that. That's genius level, because everyone's gonna. So in the team format, you can ban a list, right? And your opponent gets to choose the list that's like, no, we're not facing that. And I thought that was, out of all the lists that I was looking through, I was like, dang, that's really smart, because no one's going to pair against your Boba Fett, so it doesn't matter what is in that build. I mean, you put the Maul, Contraband, and Slave 1 to make it flyable, but it gave your team the biggest bid out there, even past Bounty Hunters #1.
Yep.
That's
I was,
big brain.
After reading the pairing rules and all the I think too many advantages second team has, I was
all the advantages.
Yeah.
There's no advantage to first player. Not one.
True. That's why I turned into, I'm usually bids are for suckers guy. This one I was bid to the floor guy.
Yeah, because it's not that list. It's your team's bid determines the entire round's first and second player. So we got outbid by, in this first round, something like almost 20 points, right? But that means that all of by the way, me and Davin and Marcel's list is called I Like Big Belts. But yeah, we're forced to be second player or first player throughout the entire match. But Ryan, like I said, with that big brain move, getting down to that 1,348 points for the all 7 lists. You guys are basically going to be second player every single game then, right? There's no reason to be first player.
Yep.
crazy.
Super smart.
All right.
Dang, wish I would have thought of it.
Well, apparently we do have round 3 to where we can make that adjustment. So we'll see how low people are willing to go.
Oh, we're going low. We're gonna try to get to that 1,200 sweet spot.
When they go low, we go lower. All right, and Marcel, you got any shout outs?
Well, thank you, Will and Justin, because I have paid zero attention to that team tournament rules. I just saw the rules and it was like pages long, and I'm like, nope. Just tell me what I'm flying and tell me who I'm playing against.
Nice.
I don't know anything. I don't even know what lists we're flying, or I don't even know what our lists are. So I'll figure that out later.
Well, you're not flying 5A wings first round because they just banned it.
Oh, they banned it. Oh, that's the only list that I told them that I'm not. I'm not 5A.
Yeah, they banned that and your runner-up list, which we were gonna have to fly Boba. Well, yeah, we're Boba Kashka. We're gonna make you fly that. They also banned that. So.
Nice.
Marcel,
I guess I'm flying Boba Kashka. There you go.
No, they just banned it. Is what I'm
okay.
saying.
What am I flying?
We'll find out.
Okay. Whatever it is, it's good.
It'll be fine. We all have good lists. It'll be okay.
Yeah. Put me at someone.
You guys are already doing the banning. You haven't gotten down to that yet. With my
He just messaged me. He's banning the 5A. So
yeah. No, I do want to give a shout out to Vagabond Squadron in England. I did their 7-round. They had a tournament, 7 rounds. It's Steve. I don't know how you say his last name. Bolton, and it's 7 weeks. Each week you fly a different faction, and it's on Vassal and on Tabletop Simulator. So in total, I over the last 7 weeks did 14 games with 2 for each faction. Ended up doing pretty well, 6-1 in both, and ended up in second place in both by MOV. But it's just a real treat to be able to play with all the people from Europe, and people that I've known and people that I didn't know. And I signed up for their second round, and then their second round I already got matched up against Dr. Khan and Jesper.
Nice.
So yeah, I beat Dr. Khan and Jesper. I'm gonna play him tomorrow. But yeah, just thank you to Steve for inviting me, even though I'm not part of their UK group. So appreciate that.
All right. Well, it looks like Ryan wins List of the Week. Congratulations, Ryan. Cheers. Cheers.
It's because he was focused.
It's true. All right, everybody.
Nobody liked my mispronunciation of bizarre.
No, yeah, way to go. That's
So you're messing it all up.
Well, everybody, I hope you guys had a great time listening to today's cast. I had a great time. Remember, we have a ton of weekly shows. Make sure you guys are tuning in Wednesday nights, starting at around 3:30 p.m. Central. We have Gold Squadron League Night. It'll stay at that time until the school year starts. Most likely after that, I'll have to push it back a little bit. But we're around Wednesday nights. Thursday nights, Gold Squadron Paintcast. We talked about it earlier, guys. You want to see that like real-life ship turn into digital ship, or digital ship turn into real-life ship. All this really cool stuff that Luke is doing. Tune in Thursday nights. It's amazing. And, of course, Monday nights, if you guys aren't listening live, it's really fun. It's interactive. You get to chat with us, and then we don't feel like we're just talking randomly to nobody. This is a lot more fun. Thanks for listening, everybody. Remember, same team, Gold Squadron out.